I got a call from the boutique at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday saying that my custom wedding dress order had been canceled by request of the person who'd placed the order. Which wasn't me, but apparently someone claiming to be my future mother-in-law. The boutique manager, who sounded genuinely uncomfortable, explained that the cancellation was on her authority as the fiancé's mother, and that she'd requested a full refund with a note saying, "The bride is not good enough for my son, so there's no point in continuing with this dress." I was confused. Then I was angry. Then I was devastated. My name is Natalie Summers, and I showed up at the boutique 30 minutes later with tears streaming down my face, ready to have an absolute breakdown about how my future mother-in-law, a woman I'd been trying so hard to impress, had essentially told me I wasn't worthy of her son. What happened next completely changed everything. Let me back up about 18 months. I met Brandon at a charity gala in downtown Boston. He's a pediatrician. I'm a graphic designer. We had an instant connection. The kind where you feel like you've known someone forever, even though you just met. We dated for a year. He proposed at sunset on a beach in Cape Cod, and we set our wedding date for April. Brandon's family was wealthy, old money, the kind where they have a vacation home in Martha's Vineyard and a box at the Boston Red Sox games. His mother, Patricia, came from an even wealthier family. She'd married into more wealth. She'd spent 40 years being the queen of the Boston social scene. And she absolutely hated me from the moment she met me. Not in an obvious way. In that very specific way that wealthy older women hate younger women who don't come from old money. It was in her smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was in the way she'd ask questions about my parents' estate. They live in a suburban home they own outright, and Patricia somehow managed to make that sound like poverty. It was in how she constantly mentioned that Brandon had dated better caliber women before me. Brandon, to his credit, didn't tolerate it. He told his mother multiple times that her behavior was inappropriate. But mothers are powerful creatures, especially when they're also the matriarch of a wealthy family that controls family trusts and inheritance. I wanted her to like me. I was trying so hard. I even agreed to let her be involved in the wedding planning, which was a mistake I would come to regret profoundly. The wedding dress was designed by my Aunt Diane, who is an absolutely brilliant designer based in Boston. She's designed dresses for celebrities. She's been featured in Vogue. She's won awards. But more importantly, she's always been my favorite family member, supportive, funny, genuinely kind. When I told her that I wanted a custom dress for my wedding, she didn't hesitate. "Of course, honey," she said. "I would be honored to design your wedding dress. And don't worry about the cost. This is my gift to you." We did about 15 fittings over the course of 6 months. The dress was absolutely stunning. Ivory silk with delicate beading on the bodice, a sweetheart neckline, a 15-foot train that was both dramatic and elegant. It cost roughly $8,000 if we were charging for it, but Diane wasn't charging. Patricia somehow found out that the dress was being designed by my aunt. I'm not sure how. I definitely didn't tell her. But one day, about 2 weeks before the wedding, she called me. "Your dress is being designed by a family member?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "Yes, my Aunt Diane. She's a very talented designer. She's been featured in. I know who Diane is. Everyone in Boston knows who Diane is. But a family member designing your wedding dress? That's so common. It's like you couldn't afford an actual designer. She's designing it as a gift, and she's an actual designer. She's very well known. Nevertheless, I think you should cancel it. Get something from a real designer. Someone with actual prestige." I didn't cancel it. But I also didn't tell Patricia no in a firm way. I just changed the subject, which, in retrospect, was a mistake. I arrived at the boutique on that Tuesday afternoon completely falling apart. I'd called Brandon immediately after getting the boutique manager's call, and he'd told me to go to the boutique and figure out what was happening. "My mom did what?" he'd said. "She canceled your dress? Without asking you?" "Yes, and she apparently left a message saying I'm not good enough for you." "That's insane. I'm calling her right now. And then I'm going to meet you at the boutique." When I got there, the manager, a woman named Susan, was visibly distressed. She'd clearly had a difficult conversation with Patricia. "I didn't know what to do," Susan said when she saw me. "She called and claimed to have authority over your account. She said the order needed to be canceled immediately. I tried to tell her that I needed to verify with you first, but she was very insistent. She said," Susan paused, clearly uncomfortable. "She said the bride wasn't good enough for the family and that there was no point in continuing with the dress." I burst into tears. Not just regular tears. Absolute body-shaking sobs. The kind of crying you do when someone has wounded you so deeply that you can't even form words. Susan put her arm around me. Honey, come back to the studio. I want to show you something. She led me to the back of the boutique, to the design studio where my dress was hanging in a garment bag. Susan carefully unzipped the bag and revealed the dress in all its glory. Your dress is ready, Susan said. And it is absolutely stunning. Whoever designed this knows what they're doing. Is this the family member? Yes, my aunt. She's a designer. Well, she's brilliant. And you know what? I'm not accepting the cancellation. Your future mother-in-law doesn't have authority over your account. You do. The dress stays. And if she tries to call and argue with me about it, I'm referring her to our legal department. But she already canceled. She tried to cancel. I'm uncanceling it. You're wearing this dress, and you're going to be the most beautiful bride at that wedding. And your mother-in-law is going to have to deal with that. I cried harder, but different tears. Grateful tears. At that exact moment, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Diane. Natalie, honey, I just got a very interesting call from your future mother-in-law, Diane said. She canceled your dress order? And said you weren't good enough for her son. I'm so sorry, Aunt Diane. I don't know what she was thinking. I obviously didn't authorize that. Oh, sweetie, I know you didn't. And don't worry about any of this. I'm going to take care of it. What do you mean? Patricia doesn't know who I am, apparently. She doesn't know that I'm your aunt. She called the boutique and spoke to a manager, but she never spoke to me directly. So when she canceled the order, she canceled it with the boutique's booking system, not with me. I'm the designer. The dress is in my studio, and I have every intention of finishing it and having you wear it on your wedding day. But what if she tries to prevent that? Let her try. She's not my family. You are. And nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to talk about my niece that way and get away with it. Brandon showed up at the boutique 20 minutes later, absolutely furious. He looked at me, saw that I'd been crying, and his anger intensified. Where is she? He demanded. Your mom? I don't know. Probably at home planning whatever else she can sabotage. She's done. We're done. I'm not doing this anymore. He called his mother immediately. I could hear her voice through the phone, defensive and dismissive. I was trying to protect you, she was saying. If you marry someone so beneath you. She's not beneath me. She's the person I love. And you just called my bride-to-be's family member and told them my fiancé isn't good enough for me. That's not protecting me. That's attacking her. And I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. Brandon, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. Either you apologize to Natalie and her aunt, and you accept that you don't get to control my decisions, or you're not invited to the wedding. Choose. There was a very long silence. Well, if that's how you feel, I suppose I'm not invited, Patricia said, her voice ice cold. Brandon hung up. Brandon and I had a very difficult conversation about whether I actually wanted him to give his mother an ultimatum. The honest answer was yes. I did. Because if I didn't, this dynamic would continue forever. His mother would sabotage every major life decision. She would poison our marriage from the inside. I love you, Brandon said. And I'm not choosing between you and my mother. You're my future. She's my past. I choose you. We called Patricia back. Brandon told her that his invitation to the wedding was rescinded, that she was not welcome, that if she ever spoke about me in that way again, he would cut contact entirely. Patricia tried to backpedal. She tried to say she was joking, or just looking out for him. But Brandon didn't accept her excuses. He was done. 2 weeks later, I got married wearing the most beautiful custom dress that my aunt had designed for me. Patricia was not in attendance. Brandon's father came. His siblings came. They were all supportive. They were all horrified by what Patricia had done. The wedding was perfect. My dress was absolutely stunning. My aunt cried when she saw me in it. I felt beautiful and loved and supported. And Patricia missed the entire thing because she couldn't accept that her son was choosing me. What happened after the wedding was interesting. Patricia initially maintained her stance. She wasn't speaking to Brandon. She wasn't acknowledging the marriage. She was essentially erasing me and my aunt from her consciousness. But about 6 months after the wedding, when Patricia realized that Brandon was actually following through on his boundary about contact, she started to cave. She called Brandon and apologized. Not a great apology. More of a, I'm sorry you feel that way non-apology. But Brandon refused to accept it. I need you to apologize to Natalie and to her aunt, he said. Directly. In person. And I need you to explain what you were thinking when you called and tried to cancel Natalie's wedding dress. Patricia did eventually apologize. It was awkward and uncomfortable, and I could tell she didn't really mean it. But she did it. And then she left. She's maintained minimal contact with Brandon over the past 3 years. She sends birthday cards. She shows up to obligatory family events. But their relationship is fundamentally changed. Brandon doesn't trust her. He doesn't confide in her. He's built a boundary that she can't cross. My Aunt Diane actually ended up designing Patricia's dress for a charity gala event about 2 years after the wedding. Patricia didn't know it was her. Diane runs her business professionally and doesn't advertise her personal connections. Patricia just knew that she wanted a dress from the famous designer Diane Laurent. When Patricia figured out who she was, she tried to back out of the order. Diane refused to let her cancel. You already paid the deposit, Diane said, smiling sweetly. And I'm going to design you something absolutely stunning. Because that's what I do. I create beautiful things for people, even people who don't deserve them. Patricia wore the dress. It was gorgeous. And every time she wore it, she probably remembered the woman she'd tried to humiliate. What's interesting to me now, looking back on this situation, is how much I was willing to tolerate in the beginning. I was so desperate for Patricia to like me that I would have let her run my entire wedding if she'd wanted to. I would have canceled my aunt's dress if she'd pushed harder. I would have compromised my own happiness to make her comfortable. Brandon saved me from that. By setting a firm boundary, by refusing to enable his mother's behavior, by choosing me and our marriage over his mother's comfort, he essentially protected our relationship. Patricia has never fully accepted me. But that's okay, because I don't need her to. I have Brandon. I have my aunt. I have people in my life who believe I'm worthy. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Brandon hadn't stood up to his mother that day. If he'd tried to smooth things over. If he'd asked me to be the bigger person and forgive her for trying to ruin my wedding day. I probably would have forgiven her. But I also probably would have resented him for not protecting me. And that resentment would have festered. Instead, he protected me. He showed me through his actions that my happiness matters more than his mother's comfort. He showed me that love means setting boundaries, even with family. And that's the foundation our marriage is built on. Patricia can hate me all she wants. But she can't touch what Brandon and I have built together. And that's the most powerful thing a future mother-in-law could ever understand. That she doesn't get to sabotage her son's marriage just because she doesn't approve of his wife. I'm wearing my aunt's dress today. It's my anniversary. And I think about how close I came to not having this dress. How close Patricia came to ruining this moment. But she didn't. Because my aunt was stronger than her manipulation. Because my fiancé was stronger than her control. And because I was finally willing to stand up and say absolutely not to someone who didn't deserve my accommodation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just building a beautiful life with the people who love you.